You attacked Earth. The Council could only stare, paralyzed. The Earth rotated silently beneath a sky streaked with the last colors of sunset. Cities gleamed with lights that stretched from one horizon to the other, evidence of humanity's relentless expansion. On the surface, people went about their lives, unaware that the galaxy was about to notice them. For centuries, humans had lived quietly, distant from the political games of the stars, their technology advancing in secret, their fleets growing stronger in hidden orbital yards. No one had thought Earth would ever need to fight beyond its atmosphere. No one had imagined that the humans could, or would, strike first. Commander Elias Ward stood on the bridge of the Aurora Vanguard, the flagship of the Earth Defense Fleet. The hum of the ship's engines filled the chamber with a steady, reassuring vibration. Around him, officers monitored glowing panels, their faces illuminated by the soft blue light of holographic displays. Ward's eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned a live feed of the target ahead, a council outpost floating in the void, small yet symbolically important. The humans had chosen it carefully, not too large to risk unnecessary loss, not too small to be insignificant. Its destruction, or rather its temporary disabling, would send a message no one could ignore. "Final coordinates locked," said Lieutenant Mara Flynn, her voice steady but tinged with excitement. "Ready for warp in 3, 2, 1. The bridge seemed to hold its breath as the ship slipped into hyperspace. Stars stretched into long white streaks, the familiar sensation of faster-than-light travel vibrating through the hull. Ward remained silent, his hands clasped behind his back. He did not speak because he did not need to. Every officer on the bridge understood what was at stake. Humanity had long been underestimated by the galaxy. Alien civilizations had viewed humans as primitive, slow to advance, and politically insignificant. They had forgotten, or perhaps never realized, that humans were adaptable, clever, and relentless when threatened, or when they saw an opportunity. When the Aurora Vanguard emerged from hyperspace, the Council outpost loomed ahead like a jewel in the darkness. It was sleek and imposing, a fortress of technology surrounded by defense satellites that spun slowly in orbit. For centuries, it had represented the Council's authority in that sector, a beacon of their power and reach. Today it would serve a new purpose, as the first undeniable proof that humanity had arrived and it would not be ignored. "Status report," Ward commanded. "Shields are active but standard protocols only," reported Flynn. "No advanced defense grids detected." It seems they weren't expecting any serious threat in this sector. Ward allowed a thin smile. "Good, keep it that way. Prepare the disruption arrays." The crew worked swiftly, their movements precise and rehearsed. The humans had spent years preparing for this moment. Every detail had been studied: patrol schedules, communication protocols, weak points in the outpost's defenses. The operation was not about causing death. It was about showing power, about sending a message that would reverberate across star systems. On the outpost itself, alarms blared as the first human ships materialized in orbit. Council officers rushed to consoles, their tentacles or limbs moving with practiced efficiency. Communications officers sent frantic messages, but the humans' approach was silent, their warp engines leaving no trace until they were already within striking distance. "Identify the fleet," demanded Admiral Tharex, his voice trembling with disbelief. "Who dares enter Council space without authorization?" The main screen flickered to life, showing a fleet of sleek human warships. Their design was unfamiliar, elegant, and deadly in its simplicity. The Council officers had never seen anything like it. Even the largest military powers had relied on bulky, heavily armed vessels. Humans preferred speed, precision, and innovation. Ward's voice, calm and steady, cut through the tension over the comms. "This is Commander Elias Ward of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are in violation of your own protocols. Consider this a demonstration of our capabilities. No lives need be lost if you cooperate." Silence followed. The Council officers could barely comprehend the words. To attack and to speak without hesitation, without fear, it was unprecedented. They had assumed humans were isolated, backward, perhaps clever in small ways, but utterly incapable of large-scale operations beyond their home world. And now their assumptions were crumbling in real time. The humans' attack was swift and calculated. Disruption arrays disabled power nodes across the outpost, cutting communications and rendering defense systems inert. Satellites that had orbited the outpost for decades fell from orbit in controlled deactivations, crashing into the void. Not a single life was lost, yet the symbolism could not have been stronger. Humanity had breached the heart of the Council's territory and left no doubt that they could strike again, and with greater force if needed. Back on Earth, the news spread in ways that would have seemed impossible a generation ago. Governments, civilians, scientists, and soldiers all watched the live feeds, marveling at the skill and daring of their people. Pride surged. Humanity, long viewed as minor players in galactic affairs, had announced its arrival in the most dramatic way imaginable. Children pointed at holographic projections of the outpost's destruction. Scientists analyzed every maneuver, eager to understand the genius of their own fleet. Humanity had shown not only that it could defend itself, but that it could command attention across the stars. Inside the council chambers, chaos erupted. Members from dozens of worlds argued, shouted, and demanded immediate retaliation. The very idea that a single planet, Earth, could orchestrate such an operation had shattered centuries of arrogance. "You attacked Earth," became a question whispered, shouted, and repeated, though no one could say it with certainty. It was more a statement of disbelief than accusation. The Council had been paralyzed by indecision, their centuries of protocol suddenly irrelevant in the face of a species they had underestimated. Admiral Tharix struggled to maintain control. He had spent his life defending the Council's authority, yet here he was, helpless before a planet he had dismissed. "This is impossible," he said. "They cannot, no species, execute something so precise, so coordinated," but the evidence was undeniable. Every sensor feed, every report, every failed countermeasure proved that humanity had acted with a skill, speed, and understanding that defied expectation. For the first time, the Council realized that they had misjudged humans entirely. Their arrogance, built over centuries, had blinded them to a truth they could no longer ignore. Humans were capable of extraordinary innovation, tactical brilliance, and decisive action. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Aurora Vanguard, Commander Ward allowed himself a moment to breathe. The initial strike had gone perfectly, but he knew the hard part was only beginning. The Council would respond, and soon, other fleets would mobilize. Negotiations, or war, would be unavoidable. Yet, for the first time, humanity held the advantage. They had seized the initiative, and the galaxy would be forced to reckon with their presence. Lieutenant Flynn approached him quietly. "They're stunned," she said, her voice a mix of awe and relief. "I've never seen anything like it," Ward nodded. "That's exactly how we want it. Fear, no, respect, curiosity. They need to see that humanity is not weak and we are not predictable. If we act carefully, we can change everything." Outside the viewport, the remnants of the outpost's shields flickered and died. A once mighty symbol of the Council's dominance now floated as a silent, powerless structure in space. It was a warning, a declaration, and a promise. Humanity would not remain hidden, they would not be underestimated, and they would not be ignored. In the quiet that followed, a new sense of determination settled over the crew. They had done the impossible, but the galaxy was vast, and challenges were inevitable. Every officer knew that today was the first step, not the last. Humanity's presence had been announced, and the Council's paralyzed shock would not last forever. They would need to prepare for diplomacy, for confrontation, and for a future where Earth could no longer be dismissed. On Earth, millions watched, celebrated, and wondered what would come next. Children dreamed of stars beyond the sky, scientists planned new innovations, and leaders quietly prepared for the day when humanity would take its place among the stars, not as a minor player, but as a force to be reckoned with. The Council could only stare, paralyzed. They had assumed humans were harmless, that their planet was insignificant. They had been wrong, and now the galaxy had no choice but to take notice. Commander Ward turned away from the viewport and addressed his crew, his voice calm but firm. "We've sent our message. They know we exist. Now we must prepare for what comes next. This is only the beginning. Humanity is awake, and the stars will never look at us the same way again." Silence filled the bridge. Outside, the void of space stretched endlessly, full of possibilities and dangers alike. For the first time, humanity was truly part of the galactic stage. And no one, not the Council, not their fleets, not their diplomats, could ignore them any longer. The Council chambers were quiet now, but the tension was thick enough to feel like a weight pressing on every member present. No one moved for several long moments, each one processing the reality of what had just occurred. Humanity had attacked, or at least struck, with a precision and efficiency that no one had expected. The outpost was crippled, yet no lives had been lost. Still, the audacity of the move left a mark deeper than any destruction could. Admiral Tharek sat heavily in his chair, his claws, or hands, depending on the species, tapping a restless rhythm on the armrest. He had dedicated his life to protecting the authority of the Council, to maintaining order across countless star systems. And now he felt powerless. A single planet, previously considered insignificant, had undermined decades of strategy and diplomacy in one bold stroke. "This cannot be ignored," said a voice from the far end of the chamber. A representative from a planet known for its warrior culture, tall and muscular with scales that shimmered in the chamber's lights, leaned forward. "If we allow this, what message does it send to the rest of the galaxy? That a single species can act without fear, without consequence." A diplomat from a smaller world shook its multiple heads. "They did not kill anyone. They disabled systems and left a warning. Perhaps it is not aggression. Perhaps it is a test, a demand." Tharex ran a clawed hand over his face. "A test, a demand. They have never been here before, never part of the Council. How can they know what is required to be noticed?" "They know more than we think," another representative said quietly. "And they are not afraid." "That alone is remarkable. You have spent centuries teaching that fear maintains control. These humans, they have none." Outside the chamber, in the observation deck above the Council's main sectors, a young officer studied the damage feeds of the outpost. The humans had left nothing critical to destroy, but the impact was clear. Communications were down, defensive satellites were disabled, and the systems would take months to repair. Yet the humans had made it unmistakably clear that they could have done more. "This is a warning," said the officer to herself. "Not an attack, a warning, but it carries a lesson. Underestimate them at your peril." Back on Earth, the news of the Council's shock was spreading quickly. Civilians celebrated cautiously, scientists analyzed every detail of the attack, and military strategists debated what to do next. Humanity had proven it could strike, but what would the Council do in return? Some feared retaliation, while others saw opportunity. Humanity was no longer a bystander in galactic affairs. It was a player, and one with skill and daring. On the Aurora Vanguard, Commander Elias Ward studied the holographic feed of the Council's chamber. "They are paralyzed," he said, almost to himself. "Fear, doubt, confusion, we've given them something they've never faced before, and they hate it." Lieutenant Mara Flynn glanced at him. "Do you think they will retaliate?" Ward's eyes did not leave the holographic display. "Eventually, yes, but not yet. Right now, they are frozen. They are trying to understand us, and that gives us the advantage. We control the initiative, and initiative is power." In the Council chambers, debate turned to accusation. Voices overlapped, some calling for an immediate strike, others pleading for caution. "If we attack, we risk open war," a diplomat warned. "We have no idea what their full capabilities are. They may be hiding technologies beyond our understanding." "Then what do you propose?" Tharex demanded. "We cannot simply do nothing. If we wait, more systems will be disabled, more symbols of our authority will be undermined, and if they strike elsewhere—" His words trailed off as he realized how vulnerable they had become. A voice from a distant sector interrupted. "We must speak to them, send representatives, try to understand their intentions before escalation. If we misstep—" The suggestion caused a ripple of murmurs. Some thought it weak, others thought it wise. Tharex considered the room, realizing for the first time that his authority did not guarantee agreement. The Council had relied on fear and protocol for centuries, and the humans had disrupted both. Meanwhile, human scientists and strategists were not idle. In secure orbit above Earth, they monitored the Council's reactions. Every transmission, every movement, every fleet activation was analyzed. They were learning quickly, anticipating the Council's next steps. Humanity had struck boldly, but they would not act recklessly. Diplomacy, observation, and preparation were all part of the plan. Ward gathered his senior officers in the command room. "They are confused. They do not understand us. Some want to strike, some want to negotiate. That division is our opportunity. We must show strength, yes, but we must also show reason. We do not want war unless it is unavoidable. Our message is simple. Humanity exists, humanity is strong, and humanity demands recognition." Flynn nodded. How do we make them see that we are serious without provoking war? Ward tapped the display, showing the crippled outpost and the affected satellites. By showing precision, by showing we can strike decisively but without unnecessary destruction. By demonstrating that we are capable and controlled. That is power the Council cannot ignore. In the days following the attack, the Council scrambled to respond. Fleets were mobilized, but few dared to approach the human homeworld directly. Reports came in of small scouting parties attempting to penetrate Earth's defenses, only to be detected and deterred without casualties. The humans had set up an intricate web of early warning satellites, defensive grids, and tactical redundancies. Every attempt by the Council to test Earth ended in failure, often without the human forces ever being seen. "It is as if they know us before we act," said one frustrated Council officer. "They anticipate every move. How is this possible? They have never fought us directly." In orbit above Earth, Ward and Flynn watched these failed attempts unfold in real time. "They are learning," Ward said. "They do not realize that humans do not follow predictable patterns. We observe, we adapt, we respond. They rely on protocol, we rely on strategy." Back in the Council chambers, divisions deepened. Some members argued that the humans were too unpredictable to be controlled by standard measures. Others believed Earth should be isolated, their communications blocked, their fleets contained. But isolation was impossible. Humanity had already proven it could penetrate defenses thought secure. Their reach was longer, their minds faster, their tactics sharper. Finally, a compromise emerged. A delegation would be sent, not a fleet, not an army, but representatives. If the humans wanted recognition, the Council would at least hear their terms. For the first time, the humans were to be treated not as outsiders, but as negotiators. Ward prepared his own team for this meeting. He selected diplomats, strategists, and fleet officers, not as an army, but as a symbol of humanity's capability and restraint. "We do not need to intimidate them further," he said. "Our actions have already done that. Now we show reason, vision, and strength." The galaxy will remember that combination. The delegation traveled to a neutral station at the edge of Council territory. It was a massive structure, floating silently in the void, a hub for diplomacy, trade, and observation. Alien delegates stared as the human ships docked. Unlike most other species, humans walked freely among others, without fear, without deference, without arrogance. Their confidence was quiet, controlled, yet impossible to ignore. Inside the meeting hall, discussions began slowly. The Council members observed the humans carefully, expecting mistakes, expecting fear, expecting aggression. Instead, they found calm, articulate representatives who spoke clearly and directly. "We did not attack to destroy," Ward said. "We acted to be seen. To demonstrate that humanity exists, that we are capable, and that we will not be overlooked. We seek recognition and a voice in the galaxy, not conquest or destruction." Murmurs ran through the chamber. Some delegates whispered among themselves, astonished by the boldness and clarity of the humans. Others tried to dismiss it, citing protocol and tradition. But the humans had already proven that protocol was insufficient to contain them. One by one, the humans presented evidence of their capabilities, precise operations, rapid technological advancement, and the disciplined restraint they had exercised. Each demonstration was a subtle message. Humanity could strike hard, but chose not to. Humanity was clever, adaptable, and willing to negotiate, but never weak. By the end of the first day, the Council began to see a pattern. The humans were not reckless aggressors, nor naive diplomats. They were a species that had learned to survive through intelligence, adaptability, and courage. They had learned to turn underestimation into advantage, and if the Council misjudged them again, it could be disastrous. Outside the hall, Ward watched the alien delegates leave, their expressions ranging from shock to respect. "This is only the beginning," he said. "They have seen a fraction of what we can do, and it has changed their perception. The next steps will determine how the galaxy treats humanity for generations." Flynn looked at him, a mixture of pride and caution on her face. "Do you think they will ever truly respect us?" Ward smiled faintly. "Respect is earned. Fear can make them listen, but understanding is what makes them value you. Today we began that process. Tomorrow we continue it. And soon humanity will be seen as it deserves, strong, capable, and unpredictable." The Council could no longer ignore the humans. They had acted, observed, and prepared. The galaxy was learning, perhaps reluctantly, that a new player had emerged. One that would not be controlled, one that would not be dismissed, and one that would shape the future in ways no one had anticipated. Humanity had struck first, yes, but they had done so with vision, restraint, and purpose. And now, as the stars stretched endlessly beyond the neutral station's windows, it was clear. The era of underestimating humans was over. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Humanity had made its presence known, and the Council was still struggling to understand what had happened. But waiting would not last forever. The humans had proven they could strike, and now they began testing the boundaries of the Council's authority. It was not aggression. They had no interest in starting a war, but they would show the galaxy that underestimation was dangerous. Commander Elias Ward stood on the observation deck of the Aurora Vanguard, looking at the holographic map of nearby sectors. Colored dots represented fleets, outposts, and patrol routes, most controlled by the Council. Ward's eyes narrowed as he studied the patterns. The Council believed that their vast networks of fleets and stations made them untouchable. They were wrong. Lieutenant Mara Flynn approached him, carrying a small tablet with the latest reconnaissance reports. "They've increased patrols near the neutral zones," she said. "But every fleet that moves towards Earth or our allies is being anticipated and rerouted. They don't know what to do," Ward nodded. "They are learning, but slowly. Their reliance on predictable patterns makes them vulnerable. We will use that. Every move they make gives us information. Every response shows their weaknesses. This is not war yet. It is observation and strategy. We will act when the time is right." In a distant system, a small Council fleet approached one of Earth's allied trade hubs. The humans had been quietly reaching out to planets that were dissatisfied with the Council's bureaucracy and outdated rules. These planets were not yet allies, not fully aligned, but they were curious. They had watched humanity disable the outpost and wondered if they could provide protection, knowledge, and opportunity. The fleet's commander believed he was on a simple reconnaissance mission. He expected to intimidate, to test human defenses. But as soon as his ships approached the hub, automated Earth sensors detected them. Silent alarms alerted the station's administrators, and a small human response fleet materialized from hidden orbital docks. No warning shots were fired. No weapons were discharged. The Council's ships were merely observed, tracked, and diverted. The humans had anticipated every tactic, every maneuver, every likely course of action. The fleet commander did not understand. "Where are they?" he demanded over comms. "We should have engaged them by now." A calm voice replied, measured and precise. "You are being watched. Do not take any action until instructed. Your fleet is safe, your ships are intact. You are simply being redirected. You may leave this system, or you may continue to follow the course we suggest." Confusion spread through the Council fleet. They had never faced a species that controlled an encounter without firing a shot. They had never seen restraint coupled with absolute tactical dominance. Slowly, the fleet commander realized that he was no longer the one in control. Humanity was not acting recklessly, but they were demonstrating something the Council had never anticipated: power without aggression. Back on the Aurora Vanguard, Ward watched the unfolding events on the display. "They are beginning to see that we do not fight like others. We do not attack without purpose. We do not escalate without reason. But we will win respect because we are capable and deliberate. That is something the Council has forgotten about diplomacy and power." Flynn nodded. "They are starting to doubt their own judgment. Some of the delegates already speak of us with caution. Others are frightened, but they all watch." "Good," Ward said. "That is all we need right now. Curiosity and caution are far more powerful than fear. Let them think, let them guess, let them underestimate us one last time. Then, when we act again, they will know exactly who they are dealing with." On several planets across the sectors, whispers of humanity's actions spread. Scientists and engineers studied reports of precise maneuvers, of advanced technologies combined with strategic thinking. Traders and diplomats began reconsidering their loyalty to the Council. If humans were capable of such feats, what did it say about the old authority that had claimed to rule the galaxy? Some Council members tried to contain the damage. They ordered fleets to intercept any human activity, to isolate trade hubs that had shown curiosity about Earth. But every attempt failed. Humans anticipated, adapted, and responded, not with destruction but with control. Ships were rerouted, communications were monitored, and potential crises were resolved before they could escalate. Every failure of the Council only demonstrated that humans were not reckless, they were precise and intelligent. At the neutral station, where human diplomats had met with the Council before, new discussions began. Representatives from smaller worlds approached the humans privately, asking questions, seeking guidance. "How can a single species be so capable?" one asked. "You move with such efficiency, yet with restraint. How is this possible?" Ward's deputy, a seasoned strategist named Lieutenant Jonas Hale, smiled. "It is simple. We watch, we adapt, we learn. We do not rely on fear, we rely on knowledge and preparation. Humans are not the strongest physically, nor the largest fleet by numbers, but we are the most flexible, and flexibility is power." These words spread slowly through the galaxy, carried by envoys, traders, and diplomats. Humans were not conquerors. They did not impose their will through fear, but they could control events, influence outcomes, and demonstrate strength without violence. That made them unpredictable, and unpredictable species were dangerous. The Council, meanwhile, grew restless. Admiral Tharix convened a private meeting with several trusted members. "We must act," he said, frustration clear in his tone. "Every day we wait, humans grow stronger in the eyes of our worlds. They form alliances, they expand influence, and we cannot stop it. Our authority is at risk." One of his advisors, a species with long tendrils and a deep, melodic voice, replied calmly. "Authority is not lost, Admiral, it is challenged. Humans are clever, yes, but they are isolated. They cannot sustain a war against the Council openly. Patience, observation, and diplomacy will still work if we act wisely." Tharix frowned. "Diplomacy failed when they struck our outpost. Observation only delays the inevitable. They are already winning the perception battle. Soon our worlds may question why they follow us at all." Outside the meeting, fleets moved silently. Humans had predicted every maneuver. As Council ships approached sectors where humans were influencing smaller planets, automated systems guided them away, showed them false readings, and presented paths that avoided confrontation. No shots were fired, no lives lost, yet control was slipping from the Council's hands. Ward watched these developments from Earth orbit, feeling the weight of responsibility. "We must be careful," he said. "We are demonstrating power, yes. But the galaxy is vast, and not all will accept us willingly. We must be prepared for those who will resist, those who will fear, and those who will try to challenge us." Flynn observed the display, noting the subtle shifts in fleet movements and planetary alliances. "We are winning influence," she said, "but we are also making enemies. Some systems will never forgive the outpost incident even if no one died. Some will see our restraint as weakness and others as arrogance." "Let them see," Ward replied. "Arrogance is in the eye of the observer. We act with purpose. That is all that matters. And when they finally realize that we are neither reckless nor weak, that perception will shift into respect, and that respect cannot be taken away." Across the galaxy, events continued to unfold. Minor skirmishes, carefully staged, allowed humans to demonstrate defensive capability without escalation. Transport convoys were intercepted and redirected, not attacked. Systems with diplomatic potential were visited, not threatened. And everywhere, humans observed, learned, and adapted. One Council fleet attempted a surprise maneuver near a minor trading system allied with Earth. They hoped to test human readiness to see if their defenses were as advanced as reported. The humans responded instantly. Sensors detected the incoming ships before they were in range. Automated defenses deployed countermeasures to guide the fleet away, while small observation units monitored every move. The Council ships found themselves unable to act as intended, frustrated by the invisible presence of human oversight. On Earth, Ward and Flynn monitored the operation. "They think they are testing us," Ward said, "but we are testing them too. Every decision they make shows how they think, how they plan, how they react to uncertainty. This is intelligence gathering at its finest. And when the time comes, we will use it to protect ourselves and our allies." Flynn smiled. "It is like a chess game. They make a move and we respond, except we know all their possible responses before they do." "Exactly," Ward replied. "And that is what makes humans dangerous. We anticipate, adapt, and act. The galaxy has not faced this before, and many will never understand it. But it does not matter if they understand. It matters that they respect us." In quiet moments, Ward thought about the bigger picture. Humanity had begun as an overlooked species, isolated on a single planet. Now, it had shown the galaxy that underestimation was a fatal mistake. Every calculated move, every act of restraint, every display of intelligence and adaptability was shaping perception. Humans were no longer minor players. They were influencers, strategists, and catalysts. Back in the council chambers, discussions continued. Members debated what to do, who to trust, and how to respond. They had underestimated humans once. The failure of their fleets, the unexpected alliances forming, and the humans' quiet influence on smaller planets forced them to reconsider. Humans were clever, disciplined, and unpredictable, a combination the council had never faced. Outside the chamber in the observation halls, human diplomats worked quietly. They spoke to curious representatives, sharing knowledge, building trust, and planting seeds of influence. They did not demand obedience. They did not threaten. They demonstrated capability and vision, leaving others to draw their own conclusions. And the conclusions were clear. Humanity was no longer a minor species. Humanity had arrived. Humanity would be heard. In the void of space, stars stretched endlessly in every direction. The galaxy was vast, full of potential allies and opponents, challenges and opportunities. Humanity had taken its first decisive steps. They had demonstrated power, wisdom, and restraint. And for every council fleet frustrated, every diplomat impressed, and every curious planet observing, one truth became undeniable. Humans were awake, aware, and ready. The neutral station hung in orbit around a small, unremarkable star, a hub of commerce, diplomacy, and observation. Its metallic surface reflected the distant light of the star, and through its wide observation windows, fleets of many species moved like tiny insects across the black expanse of space. It was here that humanity would begin a new chapter in its rise, one that would test its skill not only in strategy, but in diplomacy. Commander Elias Ward walked through the hallways of the station alongside his deputies. Lieutenant Mara Flynn and Lieutenant Jonas Hale followed closely, carrying tablets filled with notes and updates. Humans had arrived at the station earlier, not as conquerors, not as aggressors, but as representatives of a new power in the galaxy. Their goal was clear: recognition, respect, and a seat at the council's table. The council delegates awaited them in a grand chamber. It was enormous, circular, and filled with species of every imaginable shape and size. Some had tentacles, some had scales, some had wings, and some resembled forms humans could hardly name. Every delegate watched the humans closely, curious, suspicious, and in many cases, deeply afraid. The humans' reputation had preceded them, and every gesture, every step, every word would be scrutinized. Ward stepped forward first. He did not bow, nor did he attempt to appear smaller or weaker. His posture was calm, confident, and measured. "We have come to speak," he said simply. "We are not here to attack, to intimidate, or to take what is not ours. We are here to demonstrate that humanity exists, that we are capable, and that we seek a voice among the stars. We ask only to be recognized for what we are, a species that cannot be ignored." A murmur ran through the chamber. Some delegates whispered, impressed by his calm confidence. Others shook their heads, refusing to believe that a single planet could speak in such a manner to the council. For centuries, the council had treated humans as insignificant. That had ended the moment Ward's fleet struck the outpost. One of the senior delegates, a towering being with crystalline skin, leaned forward. Its voice was harsh, echoing across the chamber. "And what gives you the right to speak here? You have acted without permission, without understanding, without following our laws." "Why should we listen to humans?" Ward did not flinch. "Because we can, and because we have, not through destruction but through demonstration. We do not seek to dominate, we seek to be understood. We have the capability to cause great harm, yes, but we choose restraint. That is our strength, and that is why you should listen." The crystalline delegate's facets shimmered in the chamber light, reflecting frustration and disbelief. "Your words are bold, too bold. You presume that your actions and your confidence are sufficient to earn respect." Flynn stepped forward, her tone calm but precise. "Respect is earned by action, not by words. You have seen what humanity can do. We have disabled your outpost with surgical precision. We have redirected fleets approaching our allies without firing a shot. We act with intention and control, and yet we ask for dialogue, not dominance. That is the kind of power the galaxy has not seen before." Whispers spread through the delegates. Some began to nod, reconsidering their assumptions. Others remained silent, unwilling to acknowledge the humans' cleverness. The chamber was divided, but the humans had made their point. They were not reckless. They were not simple. They were capable and deliberate. One of the smaller delegates, a thin and wiry species with multiple eyes, spoke next. "And what do you want? Recognition? Membership? What is your goal? To challenge our authority?" Ward's gaze was steady. "We want acknowledgement. We want the ability to participate in decisions that affect the galaxy. We do not seek to overthrow, to conquer, or to fight. We seek understanding, cooperation, and the chance to prove that humanity can contribute to the galaxy's future." The discussion turned to debates. Some council members insisted that humans were a threat and should be contained. Others argued that humans had shown restraint and intelligence, and that dialogue was a safer and wiser course. The humans listened quietly, noting who opposed, who supported, and who remained undecided. Every word spoken, every gesture made, provided valuable insight into the council's structure, politics, and prejudices. Ward and his deputies did not push or pressure. Instead, they demonstrated competence. They presented data on their fleets, their technology, and their recent operations. They showed simulations of strategic operations, defensive systems, and humanitarian actions. Every demonstration highlighted capability without threatening lives. Every example built credibility and trust. Outside the chamber, the station's observation windows revealed small fleets maneuvering silently, monitoring the human delegation. Council members had deployed ships, not to attack, but to observe. And yet, every maneuver the humans had anticipated. Every attempt at intimidation was quietly countered, leaving the council delegates aware that humanity's reach was broader than expected. As negotiations continued, a few delegates spoke privately with the humans. They asked questions about technology, governance, and strategy. They were curious, hesitant, and often surprised by the humans' clarity and honesty. These private discussions became a subtle form of alliance building. Humans did not demand allegiance, but they demonstrated intelligence and reliability. The message was clear. Humanity could be trusted or feared, but it could not be ignored. Ward observed these developments with quiet satisfaction. Every conversation is a chance to understand them and for them to understand us. We do not need to dominate. Influence is far more powerful than fear. Flynn nodded. They respect competence. They are beginning to see that strength is not measured only by force, but by skill, intelligence, and restraint. Across the galaxy, reports filtered back to other systems. Humans were conducting diplomacy without aggression. They were influencing smaller worlds not by intimidation, but by competence and fairness. The perception of humanity was shifting. They were no longer a fringe species. They were becoming a model of potential leadership and strength. In the council chamber, tensions grew. Some members worried that continued human influence would weaken their authority. Others realized that resisting humans openly would make them appear weak, ineffective, and outdated. Every debate, every vote, and every whisper highlighted the growing dilemma. The humans were clever, controlled, and increasingly respected by other worlds. Tharix convened another meeting with his senior advisors. They are spreading influence faster than we can react. Each system they visit, each conversation they have, weakens our control. And yet they do not fight, they do not attack. Their restraint frustrates me as much as it impresses me. The melodic-voiced advisor spoke again. Restraint is not weakness, Admiral. It is a demonstration of strength. You cannot measure them by your standards. They are shaping perceptions across the galaxy, and perception is often more important than reality. Tharix clenched his claws. Perception or not, we must act. If we allow them to continue, if we let them win hearts and minds, we will lose authority without firing a shot. That is unacceptable. Meanwhile, humans continued their efforts. They visited minor trade hubs, offered guidance on defense and strategy, and quietly observed the Council's attempts to maintain influence. Every interaction reinforced the lesson. Humans were disciplined, intelligent, and capable of influence without coercion. In one small system, humans were approached by a planetary leader who had been dissatisfied with the Council's bureaucracy. The leader asked cautiously, "Why do you help us? What do you want in return?" Ward smiled. "We ask nothing. We demonstrate what is possible. You are free to make your own decisions. We offer guidance, not orders. That is what humanity can contribute: choice, opportunity, and capability. We do not take, we empower. The leader was surprised, and for the first time they saw a species that acted with confidence and integrity, not manipulation. Slowly, trust began to form. Humans had earned allies not through fear, but through competence, honesty, and the careful use of power. Back on the neutral station, the Council was forced to acknowledge that their authority was being challenged, not through force, but through influence. Some delegates began advocating for cooperation with humanity, arguing that resistance would only alienate other worlds. Others remained stubborn, refusing to accept that a single planet could rise so quickly. Ward and Flynn watched these shifts carefully. "They are beginning to see the consequences of their underestimation," Ward said. "They cannot ignore us and they cannot fully oppose us without risk. That is the position we want them in, uncertain, cautious, and aware." Days passed. The neutral station became a hub of subtle diplomacy, observation, and strategic discussion. Humans had shown restraint, intelligence, and clarity of purpose. The galaxy was beginning to take notice. Humanity was no longer a hidden or minor species. It was emerging as a force that could influence, protect, and shape outcomes. As the humans prepared to depart from the station, Ward addressed his team. "We have demonstrated our intentions, our capability, and our discipline. The Council has seen our power, but they have also seen our restraint. That is the combination that will make the galaxy respect us. It is not fear that will shape the future, it is understanding. And today, we have begun that process." Flynn looked out the observation window at the distant stars. "Do you think they will ever fully accept us?" Ward's eyes were steady, focused on the blackness beyond. "Acceptance is not required. Respect will follow understanding, and understanding comes from consistent action. We have shown that humanity is deliberate, capable, and disciplined. That is enough for now. The rest will come with time." The humans returned to their fleet, moving silently and efficiently through the void. Behind them, the neutral station continued its work, and the Council continued its debates. Every step, every observation, every interaction had reinforced one undeniable truth. Humanity was awake, aware, and capable of reshaping the galaxy, not by conquest, but by competence. In the quiet of space, as stars stretched endlessly in every direction, one thing was certain: the era of underestimating humans was over, and the galaxy would never look at them the same way again. The Council chambers had never been quieter. Delegates from countless worlds sat in tense silence, each reflecting on the unprecedented events of the past weeks. Humanity had shown its presence not through war or destruction, but through intelligence, skill, and deliberate action. The outpost strike had been only the beginning. Now, through diplomacy, careful influence, and quiet demonstrations of power, humans had reshaped the perception of the galaxy. Admiral Tharix paced along the perimeter of the chamber, his claws tapping rhythmically against the floor. For the first time in his long career, he felt powerless in the face of a single planet's influence. "They are changing everything," he muttered. "Every vote, every discussion, every alliance now includes humans. Our authority is no longer absolute." The crystalline delegate who had first challenged humanity leaned forward. "Perhaps we misjudged them," it admitted reluctantly. "They have shown restraint, intelligence, and capability beyond what any of us expected. Their influence grows with each passing day, and it is not born of fear. It is respect, and that is far more powerful than we imagined." Tharix's claws clenched. "Respect? After all this time, we are supposed to respect them. They are a single planet, a species we have ignored for centuries, and yet they have achieved more in weeks than the Council has in generations." Across the galaxy, systems once loyal only to the Council began to shift subtly. Traders, diplomats, and planetary leaders who had observed humanity's actions cautiously now spoke of potential alliances. These alliances were not enforced, not coerced, but chosen. Humanity's ability to inspire trust and confidence, combined with its clear demonstration of capability, had created a new dynamic in galactic politics. Commander Elias Ward sat in the command room of the Aurora Vanguard, reviewing reports from every corner of Council space. "They are beginning to see us as a presence that cannot be ignored," he said to Lieutenant Mara Flynn and Lieutenant Jonas Hale. "Our actions have been deliberate, controlled, and transparent. They see our strength, but they also see our restraint. That is the difference that gives us influence without war." Flynn nodded. It is remarkable. Systems that once ignored Earth now ask for guidance, protection, and advice. They do not fear us, they want to learn from us. That is more powerful than any weapon we have. Hale added quietly, and yet some still oppose us. They see our rise and resist it. That will not end easily. Ward's gaze hardened. No, it will not, but resistance cannot stop progress. The galaxy is wide and humanity is determined. We do not seek to dominate, but we will not be dismissed. That is enough. The Council called another summit, this time to address the human delegation directly. Delegates from dozens of systems arrived, their expressions a mix of curiosity, skepticism, and apprehension. Humanity arrived not with fleets poised for attack, but with representatives who carried calm authority, precise knowledge, and unwavering confidence. Ward stepped forward first. We have come again not to challenge, not to provoke, but to speak. Humanity seeks recognition, participation, and the opportunity to contribute to the decisions that shape the galaxy. We do not seek to dominate or destroy. We seek to be understood and respected for what we are. Murmurs filled the chamber. Some delegates whispered in awe, some in disbelief, and some in fear. Humans were unlike any species the Council had encountered. They combined capability with integrity, intelligence with restraint, and strategy with vision. That combination was as unsettling as it was admirable. The crystalline delegate rose once more. You have proven your ability to act decisively. You have influenced smaller systems without conflict. You have earned attention. But how can we be certain that your intentions will remain consistent? That your power will not be used to dominate? Ward's reply was calm, unwavering. Consistency comes from principle, not power. Humanity has acted decisively, yes, but with restraint. We have influenced, yes, but never coerced. Our actions show our intentions. If we were seeking conquest, you would already be facing fleets across the stars. Instead, you have seen guidance, protection, and clarity. That is the measure of our purpose. One by one, delegates began to speak privately with the humans. They asked questions about technology, governance, strategy, and vision. They debated among themselves. Slowly, recognition began to form, not forced, not demanded, but earned. Humans had not arrived as conquerors. They had arrived as equals, demonstrating competence, integrity, and leadership potential. Back in orbit around Earth, Ward addressed his crew on the Aurora Vanguard. Every conversation, every demonstration, every careful action has brought us to this moment. The Council can no longer ignore us. The galaxy has seen our restraint, our intelligence, and our vision. That is why we are here and why our future will be different. Flynn smiled faintly. Do you think they will finally acknowledge us fully? Ward's eyes were steady. Acknowledgement comes from understanding, not fear. They are beginning to understand. That is enough for now. Respect will follow, and once it does, it will be lasting. As negotiations continued over days, the Council found itself divided. Some delegates insisted on traditional measures, delays, challenges, tests of loyalty. Others argued that humanity's capabilities and approach demanded recognition and integration. Every decision, every conversation, every debate now included humans as a factor. The balance of power was shifting, and the Council had no choice but to acknowledge it. In private sessions, Ward and his deputies demonstrated humanity's technological advances. Precise propulsion systems, defensive grids, strategic coordination, and humanitarian logistics. They emphasized that Earth's goal was never dominance, but preparedness, contribution, and protection. Every demonstration reinforced the truth. Humans were not reckless, they were deliberate. They were not destructive, they were careful. They were not petty, they were visionary. Across the galaxy, the ripple effects were clear. Minor systems once ignored by the Council began to speak openly about joining alliances with humans. Trade routes, communication networks, and diplomatic channels slowly shifted toward Earth's influence. Systems that had dismissed humans as insignificant now sought their guidance. Humans were not only recognized, they were becoming central to galactic politics. Inside the Council chamber, Tharix and his closest advisors realized the truth. The humans had won not through war, but through competence. They had reshaped perception, shifted influence, and forced recognition without firing a single weapon in anger. The very idea that a single species could achieve such a transformation in weeks had shaken them to their core. Finally, after weeks of discussion, debate, and private meetings, the Council reached a historic decision. Humans would be granted recognition as a member species, with a voice in deliberations and the right to participate in decisions affecting the galaxy. It was not conquest. It was acknowledgement, earned through intelligence, restraint, and the undeniable proof of capability. Ward received the message quietly in the command room. Flynn and Hale waited with him as he read the official transmission. "We are recognized," he said simply. "Not because we demanded it, not because we attacked further, but because we proved ourselves capable, deliberate, and reliable. The Council has no choice but to accept our presence and our voice." Outside the Aurora Vanguard, stars stretched endlessly. Humanity's fleets remained poised, disciplined, and ready, but their power was no longer measured by potential conflict. It was measured by respect, influence, and earned authority. The galaxy had learned a lesson that could not be forgotten. Underestimate humanity at your peril, respect it for its capability, and observe it for its vision. Back on Earth, civilians watched the news of recognition with awe and pride. Scientists celebrated, engineers analyzed possibilities for future advancements, and young children gazed at the sky, dreaming of stars beyond imagination. Humanity had arrived not with war, but with strategy, vision, and integrity. The era of being overlooked was over. Ward addressed his crew one final time before returning to Earth orbit. "We have acted decisively, but always with restraint. We have influenced without coercion, inspired trust without intimidation, and demonstrated power without aggression. Today, humanity is recognized. Tomorrow, we continue to show that we are worthy of that trust." Flynn looked out the observation window, her voice quiet. "Do you think this will last? Recognition, respect, influence?" Ward's gaze remained on the distant stars. "It will last because it is earned. Humans do not demand it through fear. We have earned it through action, intelligence, and integrity. That is a foundation that cannot be shaken easily, and the galaxy will remember that for generations." The Council could no longer ignore humanity. Delegates debated, allies shifted, and fleets moved with caution, aware that humans were no longer minor players. The galaxy had changed. Humans had changed it, not through aggression but through skill, vision, and restraint. As the Aurora Vanguard and its accompanying fleet prepared to return to Earth, Ward reflected on the journey. They had begun as an overlooked species, underestimated by every council member, dismissed by every alien fleet, ignored by countless civilizations. Yet through decisive action, calculated demonstrations, and careful diplomacy, humanity had forced recognition. They had shown that intelligence, strategy, and restraint could be more powerful than fear or force. In the quiet of space, with stars stretching endlessly in every direction, humanity looked outward. The galaxy had acknowledged them, but the work had only just begun. Allies would need guidance, systems would need protection, and influence would need careful cultivation. Yet humanity was ready. They had proven themselves capable, deliberate, and trustworthy. The era of underestimating humans was over. The galaxy had no choice but to recognize them, respect them, and adapt to their presence. And humanity, awake and aware, would continue to shape the future, not through conquest, but through competence, vision, and the quiet power of earned respect. Commander Ward turned to his deputies. "The Council has recognized us. The galaxy now knows that humans exist, that we are capable, and that we will not be ignored. But recognition is not the end. It is only the beginning. Our responsibility has grown, and so has our opportunity." Flynn smiled faintly. "The stars are ours to explore, and the galaxy is ours to influence wisely and carefully." Ward nodded. "Yes, and humanity will rise not through fear, but through knowledge, capability, and the courage to act when necessary. That is what makes us human, and that is why the galaxy will never overlook us again." The fleets moved silently through the void, carrying the promise of a new era. Humanity had arrived. The galaxy had acknowledged it. And the stars, once distant and indifferent, now awaited the influence of a species that had shown what it truly meant to be awake, aware, and capable.